I'm Lara Bonatesta, and straight ahead on West Virginia Today, I'll tell you how peer recovery coaches are using lived experiences to help others get better. I'm Lara Bonatesta, and straight ahead on West Virginia Today, I'll tell you how women's health organizations across the state are reacting to West Virginia's abortion ban. I'm Lara Bonatesta, and straight ahead on West Virginia Today, I'll tell you how one small business opened in the middle of the pandemic. A WVU study of West Virginia peers found that more than half of the people in the program entered clinical treatment, and a third remained in treatment for over 6 months. Now that West Virginia has banned abortions, organizations like the Women's Resource Center on WVU's campus are connecting people with safe-sex resources. During the early pandemic, Classy Creations helped people escape the house and send their loved ones flowers to let them know they cared. But even though the opening of Classy Creations was a success, many other small businesses weren't as lucky. In a census survey, 60% of small businesses reported that COVID had a negative impact on their business, and less than 10% reported a positive impact. I'm here with Phil Nattell, the intake coordinator for West Virginia Sober Living. Phil, can you tell us more about your peer recovery efforts here at West Virginia Sober Living? Jennifer Downey came to West Virginia Sober Living several times before she was able to find long-term recovery from her substance use disorder.
They never gave up on me. They've literally walked me through every step.
Downey says she wouldn't be where she is today if it weren't for the program.
I'm coming out of treatment and they offer me a job. Not only one job as a house manager, but 2 jobs. And it's not just a job, it's a career that I love to do.
Downey is now the manager of West Virginia Peers, a team of peer recovery support specialists at West Virginia Sober Living using lived experience to help others get better.
You have a group of this population that is in recovery and they want to give back and they want to be philanthropic and they want to improve their communities. And the way they can do that is to get into this field.
Peer recovery specialists help connect people to resources, including food, clothing, housing, and more, while they seek clinical treatment elsewhere.
Oftentimes, somebody with lived experience, it would be easier for them to have a conversation with that patient than it would be for that doctor or nurse.
A WVU study of West Virginia peers found that more than half of the people in the program entered clinical treatment, and a third remained in treatment for over 6 months. But during the pandemic, it was harder to make these connections.
It was very hard, because we're trying to find resources for our clients, but you can't get in anywhere.
Specialists relied on virtual connection to help people stay in recovery. To get people through the pandemic, West Virginia Sober Living also scheduled vaccine appointments.
I think there were a lot of ripple effects because of COVID, but I think this population is more resilient than a lot of people give them credit for.
In the future, the program will continue serving its community by starting a behavioral health facility in Morgantown. The facility will offer treatment for people with substance use disorders, mental illnesses, and more.
We're going to do anything we can because we really love our community.
Downey is part of that community, one of 25 million people in the U.S. in recovery. And she says she's committed to her work at West Virginia Peers for the long term. For West Virginia Today, I'm Lara Bonatesta in Charleston. Dozens of students gathered on WVU's campus this month as part of a nationwide walkout for abortion rights. More than 50 of these events were held nationwide on college and high school campuses.
We see the actions of our politicians and acknowledge them as being reprehensible. I think that abortion is a human right, that is essential, that is a necessity. I think these are all things that I hope can be seen from this demonstration. Abortion is healthcare, and healthcare is a human right, and that you can't take a major human right away from half your population and expect people to be okay with it.
As a cisgendered male person, my voice in this matter is not really necessary. However, if it needs to be heard, it is simply to listen to all the women and trans women at West Virginia University.
WVU's walkout came nearly 1 month after the West Virginia legislature approved a near total ban on abortions in the state.
On this question, there are 77 ayes, 17 nays, 6 members absent, 2/3 of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill effective from passage.
Women gathered at the Capitol for the vote and were removed from the galleries in the House as delegates spoke in favor of the ban.
And I am glad that we are able to save so many babies, and we are protecting, and we are not. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to observe these proceedings but if members and guests cannot contain themselves, we will clear the galleries.
The ban has exemptions for medical emergencies and for rape and incest victims until 8 weeks of pregnancy for adults and 14 weeks of pregnancy for children. Now that West Virginia has banned abortions, organizations like the Women's Resource Center on WVU's campus are connecting people with safe sex resources. The Women's Resource Center collaborated with social work students to educate students and provide them with resources at a safe sex station.
So I think it's always been important, but it's definitely important now to not only give out sex education and like how to protect your body, but to also give out the information on the resources.
Now is the best time to be having this information, this education, and these resources available to help alleviate some of the pressure felt by our community.
Off campus, places like the Women's Health Center of Charleston are pointing people to online resources to access care. For West Virginia Today, I'm Lara Bonatesta in Morgantown.
For Sherry Bennett, COVID-19 was a time for new beginnings. She was a stay-at-home mom for years until May of 2020 when she saw a need in her community and she answered the call.
During the pandemic, you can't get anything. Like, no shops were open, everybody was closing, you couldn't go in. All that good, fun stuff we didn't want to happen. And someone really needed flowers for their parents' funeral. And they were pleading on Facebook, and it broke my heart. And I decided, okay, I want to figure out how to get what these people need.
When Bennett first opened Classic Creations, she didn't know if the business would survive. But with the help of her family, she took it one step at a time.
Some days you wondered why you were sitting here. Nobody knows you're here. Not a lot of people know you're here. And it was very scary. I was wondering myself if I was going to make it, but I wasn't giving up.
During the early pandemic, Classic Creations helped people escape the house and send their loved ones flowers to let them know they cared. But even though the opening of Classic Creations was a success, many other small businesses weren't as lucky. In a census survey, 60% of small businesses reported that COVID had a negative impact on their business, and less than 10% reported a positive impact.
Because people still wanted their friends to know, hey, I'm still thinking about you. I miss you, I miss talking to you, I miss visiting.
Carrie White, the executive director of West Virginia University's Launch Lab and a professor of entrepreneurship, says no one knew what to expect for small businesses like Bennett's when the pandemic struck.
In the early days of the pandemic, I don't think any of us could have even realized how long it was going to last and that we were all going to be shut down and locked in our homes, and how quickly every business was going to have to adapt, right? And adjust the way they do typical businesses. And I think, it was the ones who were able to, look at it and say, we can offer our products and services to people in a different way and be compassionate and communicate with people, were the ones who I think did well.
White says the businesses that did well were compassionate and in touch with their customers' needs.
I think that it's true for any businesses, not just during the pandemic, but also, in running any type of a small business, you have to be flexible. I think that's the biggest thing that we learned from the pandemic in businesses that opened is you have to understand what's going on in the environment and know what's going on with your customers. And if you're in contact and communication with your customers, then you can adapt pretty quickly because you know what's going on with them. I think some of the businesses that didn't do well maybe were out of touch with their customers. They didn't realize what people were going through. They didn't realize what people needed. And by the time, they learned that, it was too late.
Bennett says her shop was a place that people felt safe even during the pandemic because they knew it wouldn't be crowded and they knew it would be clean.
People knew that they could come here. It was constantly bleaching and sanitizing. I don't care if I had one person. This is what we have to do, and I want to be open and I want to be here.
By opening her shop, Bennett brought something new to downtown Fairmont, and she hopes now that more people will do the same. For West Virginia Today, I'm Lara Bonatesta in Fairmont.